Welcome to Swiss Esports Arena, and in this episode we will review the Swisscom Hero League CSGO quarterfinals and then preview the Swisscom Hero League CSGO semifinals. And my guests for today are Kairos and once again Spirits. And the structure of this episode will be, at first we will look at PriFu versus mYinsanity, then at Babos versus Arctic, then the quarterfinals are done. Then we will preview Babos versus GAIJIN and CG versus mYinsanity, so this will be the semifinals. And maybe we'll look at the final, but yeah, we don't know the final yet, so maybe not worth to discuss too much about that. But yeah, let's just start with the quarters. The first quarterfinal we will discuss will be PriFu versus mYi. In the regular season, mYinsanity won 2-0 against PriFu, and they did the same now in this series. And the first map was Train, 16-6 for mYinsanity, and the second map was Inferno, 16-14 for mYinsanity. But this map was super close. Like, it could have gone the other way. I think we will talk about that map deeper later. But yeah, what did you think of that series? Maybe Kairos, you want to start?
Sure. It was very unfortunate that I couldn't actually cast it, which is a shame in general. But obviously I had a quick look back, and I guess from the get-go, I'm not surprised that mYinsanity came off of it with a win over PriFu. But oh boy, there's a lot to talk about here in this storyline in itself. mYinsanity, obviously a team that has proven, especially this season, but I think already last season, that they are getting closer and closer to the top in the Swiss esports scene. So certainly a contester for the playoffs from the get-go, or at least in my eyes. And PriFu, my goodness, what a season, what a showing from them. And I think in the quarterfinal now, mYinsanity definitely with an edge with their map pick of Train. I guess that made it pretty tricky for PriFu to actually bring it across all the way, especially looking, of course, to Mirage, a potential third map, would have been pretty dangerous as well for them. After all, mYinsanity, I think Mirage or Dust 2, one of those two maps must have been their most played map. And I think they had a pretty good run on both of them. So it would have been a tall task for PriFu, but in the end, it was all done on Inferno, which is a bit of a shame in my opinion. I would have loved to see them go through 3 maps. But yeah, Inferno, massive game, very even over a long period of time. Obviously with a couple of very sick highlights. I guess everyone is remembering ruloN's 1v5 clutch. Let's be fair, it was more like a 1v3 in the end. The first 2 picks, right, were super fast, but nonetheless, absolutely fantastic game. And I know for a fact PriFu, they weren't really happy with how that turned out.
So Spirits, anything to add there?
I'm not that much for real, but yeah, it was. We can see that PriFu didn't practice Train like we can see that over the scoreboard, of course. But yeah, they were already on Inferno, and it was really close, as you said. But because they could have won on Inferno, I think if we see a little bit more of experience, I guess, because they lost some rounds that could have gone on their way, but sadly they lost them. So yeah, but it was yeah, pretty impressive by PriFu for real for the first seasons to go to the playoffs and yeah, even match a bit mYinsanity on Inferno. Pretty impressive.
It is impressive because they are so young. They don't really have that much experience. Last Swisscom Hero League season, they were dead last. I think 1 or 2 wins even. I think Challenger division in the cell, and now they are in the playoffs, challenging mYinsanity on Inferno. So big improvement. But something I want to talk about is Train. Like, I think Train was a super map pick also in the future for mYinsanity. Also for the 2 next series, if they can play 2 next series. But I think Train will be good against CG, and it would be good against GAIJIN, right?
It depends, because like against PriFu it was really a good pick, because obviously PriFu didn't practice on it, so yeah, it was a really good pick against PriFu. But if you play against a team that practiced it, it could not be that easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
If CG practice Train, it's going to be really difficult, because we know if your rotation as City are not good on Train, you will get wrecked pretty much easily. So so yeah, it's it's tough to say like it's a good pick for them already. We have to see them play against a team that practice train, and then we could say something like that. Yeah.
I just think it could be good against. Now, of course, if the other team practices it, then it will be harder for them. But I thought it would be a map against GAIJIN. GAIJIN has so much firepower. They could dodge a map like Dust or Mirage by picking Train. That was my argument for Train being so good for them. But yeah, of course, if GAIJIN practices it well, it wouldn't be an easy map, of course. Yeah.
I don't think GAIJIN practice a lot together because like
Yeah.
KRIGAN, of course, doesn't have time for that, I guess. So, but yeah, still on train, like even if you're prepared on train, but there is a monster against you, like KRIGAN, obviously. If he just goes outside and just pop off 3 heads and go outside every round, it's going to be really rough for you. And even if you practiced it as well, so I don't know. I wouldn't be. It's a good bet to pick train for mYinsanity, but I don't know if it's going to be a good bet overall, right? If they will win it or not. So yeah, we shall see that if they pick train, obviously, because maybe GAIJIN will just ban it now because they know that mYinsanity is ready on train as well.
If they get to face GAIJIN, of course,
Yeah,
that's
true,
something
true.
else. But we will talk about that later. So which players were the highlight players for you this series? I guess ruloN was insane with his 1 versus 5 clutch at 13-13. It was so important to win that round. If he wouldn't have won that 1v5 clutch, or 1v3, we could say, then I think the series would have gone. Then it would have been. Now, PriFu would have won the map, I think, if he would have won that clutch. Would have won the clutch like that. So
I'm not entirely sure what the money situation, what the economic situation was at that point. But I'm sure it had a massive impact going in, further in the last couple of rounds, right? Even only if in the minds of the PriFu players, because losing a round like this is going to take its toll. Sure, we keep on talking about how these players are super experienced and they're super confident in their own abilities, and they need to be able to just put it around like that side, but it'll stick with you either way. And even trying to overcome it and trying to refocus again is always a massive undertaking. So I'm sure it would have made it much more doable to actually win Inferno for PriFu in the end. But yeah, I guess in the end it's neither here nor there. And if, as I said before, in the long run, I am not entirely sure whether it would have made it.
Okay, definitely closer, but yeah, it wouldn't have been a definite win for PriFu after that. But do you agree with me that ruloN was the player of the series?
I guess it's difficult, right, to argue against it. After all, top fragger, highest ADR on the mYinsanity side. But in the meantime, I want to underline that the beautiful thing about mYinsanity's playstyle, or at least to me, is that we are looking at a team that is very equal in their positions, in their impact that they have. Sure, you have every game you have 1 or 2 players that might be falling off a bit, but it's hardly ever due to them like having no impact at all, but rather other players kind of taking the spotlight and having better games than their teammates. And this time again, if you look at the stats through that quarterfinal, they all have positive KD, and they're in between plus 19 and plus 5-6 KD kill death differentiation. So it is as pretty much always, I feel like. I could be wrong. Certainly we have had exceptions to this rule, but I feel like mYinsanity most of the time is a very team heavy, structured group of players, and therefore they do swap MVPs basically every game. But this time around, ruloN certainly, especially with that nice little clutch, I guess there's no way around it.
It's something you remember and you just think he was the best even if all the players were good. Like, you're right.
It's just it's a very solid team all around, and everyone's playing his role very solidly, and many of them have the possibility to pop off in a match. So it's really cool to see, and that's probably one of the points that makes it quite difficult to play against them as well.
So maybe, but then who was the best player from the PriFu side? Maybe then Spirits. Would you say?
If we just look from the stats, I would say Dark, but yeah, I think like on train it was hard to pick one guy because they didn't play together. Like Kairos said, like as mYinsanity teams, they all play together. There is not really a star player, right? Because there is always some guys who will put the spotlight on him and with some flashes and something like that to make him do some actions, of course. But yeah, on the PriFu side, I would say Dark just play. But yeah, it's like if you get the stats as well, they pretty much have all the same stats pretty much from the KD and things like that. But still, yeah, I would pick Dark just from the KD. But they play together, they tried some things, and yeah, maybe we should just look at Inferno map and that's it. And on Inferno, yeah, I would pick Dark because he was the only guy who was positive in his KD, and he did his best. And yeah, I don't know what to think about that, Kairos.
I'm trying to remember rounds that stuck out to me, where players had massive like impact in deciding the rounds. And I have to say, I don't have the whole game like mentally ready in my head, obviously. But I think Ferox, for example, had certainly one or two rounds as well where he basically turned around for his team. But I can only concur, really. Overall, tricky to say because they're all so incredibly close together. Right?
So if you talk about the rounds that stood out, for me there were two DAO rounds. Like PriFu was down 9-13, but then DAO won a clutch on B, only with a deagle, I think 1 versus 3,
Yeah,
1 versus 2.
yeah.
And after that the game changed. Like mYinsanity had to eco after that. DAO gets another 3k in the next round. And then boom, 13-13. But then yeah, the ruloN incident happened and then it went downhill. So
that was from behind pillar, right?
Yeah. No, from New Box, I think, if I'm not wrong.
New Box? Okay.
Yeah. Or maybe yeah, like pillar New Box.
Yeah, thank you. It was moving right. I think I have the round in my head. Yeah.
But that was a big mistake from mYinsanity there. But DAO played it really well with only a deagle and just killed them both 3. It was pretty impressive. I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah, really cool. It was one of those rounds, right? When you look at it, you kind of feel it evolving, right? And you think like, oh well, okay, that's going to be tricky. I think they had a 2 or 3 man stack already when they started to execute, and yeah, the Eagles, you know how it is. We all know it can be heartbreaking, really, and I think it's one of those situations where probably the pressure on the terrorists just starts rising and rising and rising, and you feel like, oh my goodness, this could go wrong. And yeah, the DAO pulled it off and kept it in very well and played it superbly, I have to say. Yeah.
I think that round also gave PriFu a big mental boost. I thought after that, every round you would see a PriFu player get 2 kills, 3 kills. I thought they not woken up because they were already awake, but I thought after that they really got stronger for the rest of the series, even though it was only maybe 8 rounds left to play.
For sure, absolutely, and it goes to show how incredibly impactful single rounds and single plays even within a round can be, simply for your mentality and kind of the momentum that you build up off of it.
Yeah, it gives you some hopes to win those kind of rounds, and then you just have some confidence even more, because when you play CSGO, if you don't have any confidence, you won't get any frags. So yeah, it was pretty impressive this round from DAO. It gives hopes to PriFu, and yeah, it was close for them. It was really close to win this map, actually.
So is there anything or anyone who surprised you in that series? Yeah, apart from I guess the clutch, which surprised every one of us, especially PriFu, I guess.
I was maybe expecting more from Nirmo. I was expecting maybe more frag by him, but yeah. And as a good positive thing, ruloN, of course, with he was really strong even when it was really rough, right? When it was 14-14, he just pulled off really great rounds. So yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't really say necessarily surprised, but I was, when watching back the game, I was wondering what was going on with Compe. Might be because I'm just a bit of a Compe fanboy, but to me, he's like a cornerstone of the mYinsanity team, right? And time and time again, you can see him in clutch situations, last man standing, and quite often he actually is good for 2 or 3 highlights during a series. And I felt like I've seen him attempting clutches a couple of times, but it never really came to fruition, and sort of felt like a pretty slow game for him. But then again, might be due to ruloN just having a monster of a performance. So
I think
tricky to say.
I think Compe, I think he was the lowest in the standings, but I think he had some very, very strong rounds where he just lurked onto a side, got in there, 2 kills, boom, round was won without actually doing that much. So, yeah, maybe not a standout game like other games where, for example, the 1v3 clutch on Mirage, right? He was the guy against PriFu with the 1v3 clutch
Yeah.
in the first Mirage game, I think.
Yeah. Exactly.
But still, I guess
But-
he still had some good moments. But yes, Spirit, sorry.
As you said, he was lurking a lot on these A apps, right, on Infernos. But like you said, even if he didn't make a lot of kills, just his presence on those apps was really a big struggle for PriFu, because they didn't know if it was going to be A or B, of course, and they had to wait for him to push those apps or to fall back. But he never fell back, and he always went out and tried to take a kill, and he had a big presence in this middle as well. So yeah, he wasn't maybe on the scoreboard. It wasn't showing that much, but yeah. He did a lot for his team, actually.
Is there anything else you would like to say about that series?
I think I'm good, yeah. It
I
was
think we covered
pretty
it pretty
impressive
much.
match.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was really. It was a really cool series, especially the second map. The second map was insane, and first playoffs for PriFu. So yeah, I think there's a lot more to come from them. So next series we had was Arctic versus Babos. So what? Now during the regular season they drew, of course, it's Babos, but in the end Babos won 2-1. So what did you think about that series? Spirit, you want to start? You actually casted it even, so...
Yeah, it was impressive, because remember when we were talking about that on the last video with you and Remo, we were like, I betted that Arctic will win 2-1, and you and Remo betted that the Babos will win 2-1, and yeah, it was a really close series. It was impressive. Like every maps was a pleasure to cast, of course, because there was so much tension. So yeah, 16-11, 16-14, 16-13, and 2-1 for Babos. Yeah. I think maybe Arctic is a bit disappointed, because like they wanted to win that, obviously. But yeah, they were so close. They just lacked maybe a bit of practice on some maps, a bit of clutch round that they should have won, and maybe their game style was too slow every round. And even Babos should have maybe adapted their style a bit more, I think, on some rounds. But overall, it was a beautiful quarterfinals. Yeah.
Anything to add to that, Kairos?
Yeah, what a monster of a game. It's certainly quite a marathon right there. And I think it was usually if a game goes over three maps, you have that standard build up, right? Where one team wins their map pick, the other wins theirs, and then you got to decide on the last map. This series really didn't feel like that at all. It was like 50-50 all through all 3 maps, basically. It was like neck to neck and incredibly tight race. Even, correct me if I'm wrong, but it felt to me like even throughout the maps, there was hardly ever like a massive lead of one team where they had the opponents had to fight back and sort of gain a lot of momentum. But it was always step by step, and they kept on battling it basically every round. So massively entertaining to watch, and obviously a testament to how close these two teams actually are in skill level.
Now, Spirits, you said some of the rounds from Arctic may have been too slow. I know when I made an interview with Dance and he talked about his his season or about the playstyle of Arctic, he actually said that they want to play a little bit like Navi with Zeus, where they play slow and explode onto the side. And it's really cool that they actually did that and not just said that. But I think in the last episode we said a weakness of Babos is that sometimes they just think it's boring to just chill, let's push.
Yeah.
And I think then it was the right decision from Arctic to play that slow against a team that does something like that, or not.
No, I don't think so. Like in the beginning, it worked a lot because
Yeah.
Babos didn't do any mistake, as we said in the past videos. Because Remo was saying that Babos was bored sometimes; they will just push the apps or push some zone, right? But they actually didn't do that at all in every map. I think I don't remember any
Okay.
rounds that they do that. So I don't think it worked sadly for Arctic, and even it was like a counter for them because if you always have the same rhythm in your rounds, right? If you always play slow, then the cities will just keep their stuffs, keep their smokes, and wait for 45 seconds. Just pop a smoke, pop a molly, and that's it. And you won't be able to rush on the site, right? So even if Navi is like this game plan, right? They have some fast round as well. Like this, the opponents cannot adapt too much on the play style. So yeah, so I think that was one of the weakness of Arctic on this BO3 because they played every round really slowly and always execute at maybe 30 seconds, 20 seconds, and sometimes it was even too late. So yeah.
Now, Kairos, what do you think about the playstyle of Arctic playing a little bit more slow or slower in English?
It is something that I generally am a big fan of. If
me
you're
too.
up against, especially against aim-heavy teams, obviously you kind of need to work around that difference in raw firepower, right? And that's obviously the first way to approach a game like that. Now, I have to give it to Spirit. I'm absolutely on the same page with him. It just simply doesn't work if you play it every round like that. You need to change it up. You need to change the momentum. You need to change the pace at some time just to keep them on their toes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, sure, I don't think it was the best series for Babos to show how aggressive or how active they like to be, especially on their CT sides. We've seen games, especially thinking back to maps like Mirage and Dust 2, I guess once again the most played maps from this team as well, where they hardly had any CT round where they didn't go for any aggression somewhere, whether it be B apartments, A ramp, taking top mid. Not as much in this series, but I guess that just shows how very serious they were taking it against Arctic to come through that quarterfinal, right? So they certainly played a bit more careful, maybe not quite as loose as they played a couple of maps throughout the series, the season. But I guess it could have worked very handily if they kept actually that play style of being aggressive, kind of balls to the walls, just go out and get some frags. Because a team like Arctic that sits back so patiently for a long period of time can get obviously sort of disrupted in their executes once it comes to them by plays like that. But in general, I quite like it, and you can't really fault them for it. After all, it worked almost perfectly, right? It was a 3-map thriller, and even Mirage 16-13 take 1 or 2 rounds more throughout the whole game, and you go through to the semi. So it's tricky, really, to kind of paint them in a too bad of a picture, really.
Now, apart from the playstyle, of course, there's other factors like which team played better individually. And I think in the last episode, we said that this series would be no rules versus KanoO, because KanoO was the best player during the regular season, and no rules was the best player during also during the regular season. But in the end, in this series, it felt more like no rules versus Dance or Breaker versus Dance. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree with that. I think Breaker was insane, insane on both of those three maps, and Dance was so good with his AWP. He opened a lot of rounds with his AWP. He just clutched a lot as well. Yeah, it was pretty impressive. I think if I should pick two MVP of those teams, would be Breaker and Dance. But once again, I don't like to do that because I think it's a team game, right?
Yeah,
Obviously, and even if there is an MVP, like usually you won't be able to do that if your team is not doing what they're doing as well. Like even if they are just doing some noise at some place on the map, right? Then you can just pick in another position and just have the advantage or something like that. So, but yeah, still, I think Breaker and Dance were pretty amazing on this series. And but once again, for real, like for Babos, it was hard to because like we tried to pick an MVP on each map with John, right? And yeah, for Babos, we always struggled a bit because they are playing so much together that yeah, it's pretty much impossible to do. So yeah.
So did you think maybe about no rules? Because last time Remo said he was the Swiss Simple, or I think maybe Az said he was now the Swiss Simple for. So we have a storyline. But what did you think of his performance this series? If Breaker was the standout player, maybe Kairos.
You know, no rules is no rules, and I think one of the most impressive factors when it comes to kind of analyzing his game. It's just whatever he does it in a very flashy way, right? So his pushes, his peaks, his kills, they all almost always have a very stylish character, which really makes them stand out. And don't get me wrong, he has massive impact, obviously. But then again, I think we've seen a game here and there as well where he did drop off, where his picks were punished more often than not, which obviously tips the whole scale in a bit in the other side then. But for this series, I have to say, no rules, obviously together with Breaker, these two were tearing shit up. It was absolutely massive. And I wouldn't really put no rules far behind Breaker as an MVP.
Okay, so next question would have been player of the series, but I guess we have Breaker as the player of the series with no rules closely behind, and then from the Arctic side it would be Dance, which I'm very happy about. I'm really happy that he had such a good series, even outperforming KanoO. Yeah, KanoO, like did he underperform? Like not in the sense of he was bad, just he wasn't the best, and that's underperforming if we think of a player that is that good. Like if Simple isn't the best player of his team, he's underperforming, even if he's good.
Yeah, I think sadly for him, he wasn't at his level for this series. Sadly for Arctic as well. But yeah, because like they picked Nuke, so it was an exotic map, obviously, and he wasn't that confident on it. I think on Dust 2 as well, he wasn't really showing that much because Dance was was stealing all of the spotlights, right? He was just impressive. He even like for the first round on Dust 2, he was really close to clutch the first round. Then he clutched the second round, if I remember correctly, or the third round. Not so sure. But yeah, maybe it was because he's really young, right? So maybe he doesn't have the experience to play some playoffs, some BO3, some BO3 with a lot of pressure, right? So maybe yeah, just a bit of inexperience. I don't know what happened for him, but yeah, I was a bit not disappointed, but yeah, I was a bit surprised that he didn't show up his real level for the series. And yeah, I think that was maybe what cost the game for Arctic. But yeah, on those two, we saw that Arctic wasn't ready. We saw that there was some miscommunication, some bad rotation between the city side, right? So yeah, maybe KanoO wasn't. It's not his fault, right? Like it's a team fault because they didn't maybe practice enough as city, and maybe that's why he wasn't in shape to get his skills, his lines that he used to. So yeah.
Yeah, Kairos, anything to add to that?
Not too much. One point that I would love to pick up is actually the maps they played. I can't shake the feeling that Dust 2, Nuke, and Mirage in a best of 3 kind of gave Babos Gaming an edge from the beginning over ArcticGaming. Sure, they did pick Nuke, but let's be honest, Babos Gaming almost upset them on their map pick, right? So it was really close. And watching Nuke, it never really felt to me as if Arctic like had it in the bag from the beginning. So they had to, throughout the whole map, they really had to work for it. Even going down a couple of rounds early on already, I think. But yeah, Dust2 and Mirage, obviously, it should have been well known that Babos Gaming feels super confident on those two maps. And in all honesty, I'm slightly surprised that Dust2 as well as Mirage made it through the veto system. So I would have been interesting really to know their argumentation really to bring it to those three maps.
Because I think it's a pretty new team. I think for even like if there is some core players, right, for Arctic, I think it's a pretty new team. So maybe they didn't have the time to practice Vertigo, to practice Train or something like that. So they wanted to fix some mix map, I guess, and they practice Nuke. So I'm not that sure, right? But I'm only guessing. So, but yeah, I totally agree with you that they should not have picked Dust2 and Mirage against Babos.
So in this series, was there anything or anyone that surprised you other from the things we have just mentioned or talked about rather?
I guess once again I could say slight change up of Babos Gaming's playstyle. Much more careful, much more composed, I guess. Comparing it to their season games in the regular season, it felt much more. I don't know, almost much more energetic. I would say, like more aggressive, more confident from time to time, even. But I guess you can't really bully them for it. They made it work, right? And they did get through it in the end. It's probably the case that I was just hoping for a bit more of a spectacle on their side.
Now, Spirits?
I really like their aggressive style as City, right? On Nuke, especially when they rush this lobby position, I think at least twice on this map. So, and yeah, on Dust2 as well, they were really aggressive, like pushing this lower position. So, yeah, I like their playstyle a lot. So I expect a lot from them for the semifinals.
Ooh, okay, that's good. That's good. So anything else about this series? Because we will talk about the semifinals later. But anything about this series you want to say?
Just congrats to those teams. It was an amazing match.
Most certainly, yeah.
Good. Nothing from you, Kairos? Because then?
No, it's fine.
Okay, good. Then 2 questions about the quarterfinals, but maybe let's skip one of those. Who was the best player of the playoffs until now? Now we had player of the series, but who was the best player in both quarterfinals now?
That is a good question. Obviously, I guess you. Well, that's actually quite a tricky one. I was just wondering whether it should be someone from mYinsanity or Babos, or even Dance really as a tragic hero.
I guess if we close the pool to only a few players, it would be between ruloN, Breaker, No Rules, and Dance, right? Between those 4.
Yeah, one of those probably would have to be it. Yeah. But then again, what it's tricky to say after all because 2 different teams are waiting in the semifinals. So, yeah, I guess I honestly I would say the duo of Breaker and No Rules.
Okay.
I wouldn't really pick one of those, but them together seem to have so much drive behind them. And they do make Babos Gaming such an incredibly dangerous team, and I'm really, really looking forward to their semi.
They are brothers, right? I think.
I don't know.
Or not?
For real, I don't have this information. Maybe yet.
Are they?
I think
probably.
so. I think so.
Probably, yeah.
Nid said 2 of their team were brothers.
Oh yeah, okay, then it must be.
It should be them.
Oh, but even a better storyline. There we go. What a story.
So we give best player of the playoffs, we give it to the best family of the playoffs then.
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Okay,
that
Breaker
works
and
for me.
Norval's best family of the playoffs so far. Let's see if they can keep doing or being the best in the semifinals, because then, we will segue to the semifinals, which would be. Let's first talk about Babos versus GAIJIN, because I think the other series is the cooler series in the end, but let's talk about both. During the regular season, 2-0 for GAIJIN. And I think GAIJIN are the clear favorites, right? Just because, they have ruloN. I guess that's really not bad to have FPL champion still.
Yeah,
No.
I guess it's almost a bit heartbreaking to see Babos Gaming battle through a season like they did, and through a quarterfinal just to face off against GAIJIN in the semis, right? It feels almost a little bit unfair. Because GAIJIN as a team, they're just far and beyond above whatever else in the series right now. And I would be lying if I said I see them having a chance against them. GAIJIN for me, clear victor. Question is though, how close can Babos Gaming make it?
Yeah.
And what kind of a fight can they actually put up against GAIJIN? And still, I guess this is the ground on which we have to judge them in the end. Obviously, if they actually manage an upset, then bloody hell, more power to them. That would be absolutely fantastic. But I wouldn't necessarily bet on.
Nice spirits. What can you say about that?
Yeah, my heart wants to say Babos will win 2-1. Even if there is Alexander in GAIJIN and there is Zed and guys like that, of course. But yeah, sadly, if I have to listen to my head, I think it will be a 2-0, I guess, for GAIJIN, because even if they got ruloN, even if they don't really play like a team, the firepower is so that they're just too powerful. So I don't see sadly Babos winning a map, but I think it will be pretty close. But still, yeah. My heart is breaking right now for Babos, because they show so much great performance for those quarterfinals, but still it's GAIJIN in front of them, and in the regular season they lost 16-1, 16-3 against GAIJIN, so maybe they will do better, that's for sure, but yeah, I don't see them winning as well. I think it will be 2-0 sadly for GAIJIN, even if my heart wants to say 2-1 for Babos.
What would be your prediction, Kairos? Also 2-0.
Actually, I'll go 2-1. I'll go 2-1, and due to one reason, I think Babos, they have the players with the right mentality to somehow miraculously make it work on one map. They will get rolling on one of their maps, and they have enough aggression to kind of make GAIJIN falter a bit from time to time. And still, they have actually a pretty decent coherence as a team, right? Which GAIJIN might be lacking here and there. So I do see a world where they actually take the fight to GAIJIN and take a map off of them. To win the series, though, I can't go that far. No way. So I'll risk a 2-1, a cautious 2-1, but yeah, much more is not in there.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I hope Babos wins as well, but I would go with Spirit's prediction and say 2-0, just because during the regular season it was a 2-0 and it was it were two stomps, and GAIJIN only lost one map in the Swisscom Hero League this season, one map, and I don't think they will lose a second map in this semi-final. So I guess 2-0 GAIJIN prediction for me. Yeah. Anything else we want to say about this series? Because if not, we would go to the other series.
Well, I guess interesting will be to see how GAIJIN actually approaches this series. You've pointed out they only lost one game throughout the whole regular season, right? And that was the very first game against CG. So after that, no more losses for them, and most of them were very handy victories, really. if I remember correctly. Now, obviously, getting closer to the end of the season and the playoffs, it's always interesting to see how the mentality changes within the teams and how they approach the matches, whether they actually are faced by getting closer to the final and whatnot. So I'm going to be watching the game quite carefully, trying to find out how much GAIJIN actually is invested in winning. And I guess Babos might actually be a very good indicator for something like that.
Yeah, because sometimes the players of GAIJIN will, I think their mentality is not that strong, right? If you put some rounds, if you make, you put some clutch rounds, maybe the mentality, the psychology of GAIJIN will just get crushed and they will just stop playing together. They will just rush everywhere. So yeah, so they have a shot with that, but I don't think in the end that will matter a lot. I think it will be 2 or 2-1 for GAIJIN, sadly. Not sadly, but
yeah.
but yeah, you understand what I said.
you gotta feel for the underdog, right?
Yeah.
You can't take that away from them.
So you say they tilt fast, but you said playoff mentality. I think GAIJIN, other teams, they will get nervous. I think Babos will also get a little bit nervous. It's the playoffs. It's for more. If you lose, you're out in the regular season. Yeah, whatever. But I think, or not? Don't you
I
think?
don't think they will be nervous because
just a
they're
little
the underdogs.
Just a little bit, like everyone just in the playoffs.
When you're in the underdog position, you're just like you don't have to lose anything, right?
Okay,
It's GAIJIN in front of you, so whatever you do, you will just play your game. Like you can be nervous when you are at the verge of winning, right? If you are like at the point of winning, you can maybe shake a bit, but otherwise, I think they will just play the games and that's it. Yeah, because I think they're happy with the results, and if they can take a map or even 2 against GAIJIN, that would be just awesome. Yeah.
Okay. I'll admit that's a good reasoning. So I agree with you here. But I think on the other side with GAIJIN, they aren't the underdogs, but I don't think they will get nervous, even though they aren't the favorites. The underdogs. Sorry.
I don't think. Sorry. I don't think they'll get nervous per se. I think what Spirit said before might actually be something to consider. The fact that, first of all, they're not playing as much in that team constellation like other teams, like mYinsanity or Babos Gaming, for example, because these teams, to make it to this point, they need to work on the team play. They need to come from a completely different background, like the guys from GAIJIN, right? They can join the server, shoot heads, run around and dominate players left, right, and center. Whereas Babos Gaming or mYinsanity, they definitely need to put in a lot of effort kind of to make it to this stage. And obviously GAIJIN's not really used to being pressured all that often. And I think the fact that as soon as things don't quite go their way, they start to kind of dislodge and not really play coherent Counter-Strike anymore. That in return obviously could in theory be an issue at some point. But nervous per se, I don't know.
I think that as well. But yeah, like you said, that would be one. Then like Spirit said, they could tilt. And I think maybe they could be overconfident. That could be something that could be bad in the end. Like maybe they think, we will win anyway, so why play too serious? Why take it too serious? Let's just play and we win. And then if it doesn't work out, you get tilted. You get, wait, I thought we would win that easily, and then you see you really have to play better. I guess maybe they could be their own biggest enemies in the end. But yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
Totally, but like in the last final of SHL, right, it was Red Instinct against GAIJIN, and even like Red Instinct was really close to win against them. I think it was like 2-1 in the end. But even with that, even if they lost some rounds, even everything happens to GAIJIN, they still this team came victorious. So
yeah, that's true.
I think in the end it won't matter a lot, but it can matter a bit. So maybe it will make Babos win a map, maybe even 2, if they show some awesome CS. But yeah, it can happen, but I don't know if it will be that important. So yeah,
it could be completely useless, that mental talk we just had, because even if they are tilted, Rigon will kill all, and that's it. Maybe,
yeah.
It was something we could have, we talked about, but maybe it doesn't matter in the end. But I guess then that's it for this series. And the other series is mYinsanity versus CG. In the regular season, they drew 1-1, but some things have changed, at least on the CG side. They got a new player. They got Chrissy of Lustig. And the storyline, one of the storylines of this series will be Chrissy versus Linex, because last season they are ex-teammates. Last season they played together in mYinsanity. They went to the semis. They lost against Red Instinct, and now CG is the team that replaced Red Instinct, you could say. But now this time, CG is versus Linex, and Chrissy is not against CG, but he is against Linex. So this would be one of the storylines of this series, which could make it cooler to watch. But other than that, what do you think about this series? Not in prediction, but maybe player to watch. What will be the maps, the playstyle, the deciding factors of this series? What do you think?
Spirits, do you want to start?
Yeah, let's go. I think the maps will be played. That will be played. I think mYinsanity will remove Vertigo because they lost against CG on in the regular season. Even if it was only a 16-12, I think they will just remove it to avoid that. I think MyInsanity, they will pick Train if they can, Mirage obviously, and probably Dust 2 because they are comfortable on Dust 2 as well. But yeah, and the fact that CG just changed the player between Yox and Crazy, of course, I think that's a huge factor as well for CG, and I think that made them a bit weaker because they didn't have the time to adjust their game styles with the new player to have all of the strategy they had with Nyox, obviously. So I think mYinsanity has a great shot on this series, and I bet it will be some classic map like Inferno, Dust 2, and Mirage for this BO3. I would be a bit surprised if CG lets Train open, but we will see.
Now, Kairos, what do you think?
Interesting. Yeah, I was just having a quick look across all the season, what maps CG was playing, and it feels like CG is pretty happy with leaving different maps in the map pool, not necessarily forcing like the three standard maps, Inferno, Mirage, Dust 2, to go through. The match against mYinsanity that they've lost on Vertigo obviously shows something that I would love to see is mYinsanity's map pool and the depth of it. I think after the quarterfinal, Linux was in the interview with Remo, saying that he's quite comfortable with their map pool as it is right now. And obviously, seeing how they won against CG on Vertigo makes me think that they most likely will try to prepare a very specific game plan against CG and force them on one map where they very intently kind of prepare for against CG, which could be quite interesting. Whether it is Train, not sure. Vertigo, probably not, as you said. After all, it's one of the very, very few games that CG lost throughout the season. But I guess mYinsanity, seeing how they work as a team, they certainly have a chance to work with the map veto in general. But then again, CG, also one of those teams that's quite a wild horse. It's really, really tricky and difficult to gauge them. Albeit they did not look unbeatable in the season. I think they've lost maps as well against, what was it? One against Babos, if I remember correctly, and one more.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah. So not quite as dominant as for example a GAIJIN, but still an incredibly dangerous team full of firepower. And I think it'll be one hell of a match between those two teams.
Now for the map picks, Spirits, you said Inferno, Dust, Mirage, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But-
because I think mYinsanity will just ban. CG will ban Train, and
Yeah.
mYinsanity will ban Vertigo. I think, yeah.
But-
So that's it.
But don't you think that mYinsanity would then pick Nuke, because that's more, it's not a puggy map and you can abuse the roster change a little bit on a map like that?
Yeah, true, but still, I don't think mYinsanity is that much confident on Nuke because they lost
Okay,
against
okay.
PriFu. But I'm not that sure, right?
Mhm.
Maybe they practiced a lot those past weeks, so maybe they're
Okay.
confident, but I don't think they will pick Nuke. We shall see, because they lost against Fragbox and they lost against PriFu during the. Oh no, it's CG. Sorry, I'm watching the wrong pages. Oh my god. No, but actually they didn't play Nuke on the regular season, mYinsanity. So I don't know. Maybe they will pick it. Not that sure, but yeah, we will see.
So CG lost to Fragbox and PriFu on Nuke.
On Nuke, yeah. So yeah,
Another good argument to pick Nuke, I guess.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
true.
of course, yeah. If they aren't confident on it, then you don't pick it just because the enemies aren't confident on it.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't have any strategy, especially on Nuke as T, and if you didn't practice the rotation as CT on Nuke, yeah, it's a gamble, and this gamble could go wrong. So I'm not that sure that mYinsanity will pick it then.
So apart from the maps, who do you think are the players to watch this series? I guess ruloN. In mYinsanity, all the players are to watch because they are they all play good. They don't have a star player, but still, if you would have to choose a players to watch this series, who would they be?
I got an interesting one,
Okay.
and that would be Shubi.
Oh, okay,
And
that's cool.
more because of his role as an AWPer. Because I think mYinsanity, if they want to have a serious chance to take that series from CG, I can't get over the fact that he probably needs to have a really solid performance. He doesn't need to be a standout player, but he can't have a bad game, because they will be very much dependent on him putting up the numbers, shutting down areas and sites. And if he can't pull it off against CG, then they'll be in a whole world of trouble. So just from a sort of team dynamic standpoint, I feel like there will be quite a lot of pressure on Shubi.
Yeah, totally agree with Kairos. I would pick Shubi and as you said, ruloN as well. And yeah, maybe Compe can show off once again, because we know that this guy can lurk a lot and can do a lot of clutches as well. If he's in shape, it can clutch everything. so yeah, we have to keep an eye on him. And for CG, I think I would pick Crazy, because even if he's a substitute, he's a new player of CG.
Yeah.
He was when I used to watch his plays, he was really good. So yeah, I'm pretty hyped to see this guy. Maybe he can perform really well as well. And I don't know for real. Like in CG, everyone is really good, so it's hard to pick someone, right? But maybe Nikista. But yeah, if I really had to pick someone, but that's it. Yeah.
Kairos, if you had to pick someone from CG, who would that be?
Good question. I think, I don't know, Niox, I felt like had an incredibly solid season. I think he was performing quite well also against GAIJIN, but that was a very long time ago now. Yeah, other than that, I think it's quite tricky. I think crazy for him coming in actually and taking over one of the spots. You can't really look past that, and he will be sort of in the spotlight, right? Because everyone has very high expectations of the team, and he needs to come in and slot in between those really big names and big players and kind of hold his own, right? So I guess probably not a bad shout actually to keep an eye on him.
Okay, I would be very, very happy if he has a very good series, because I love that guy. He plays with Lustig as well. So, okay, let's pick Crazy for the CG side. And yeah, it's between Shubi, ruloN, and Compe on the MYI side. Now for the predictions, I guess the coolest part always. What do we
This
want
one
to
is
say?
rough.
Who wants to start? Should I start or?
I will let you start, Jamel.
Now I guess I'm biased towards mYinsanity, and I would say 2-1 mYinsanity. They are now warmed up. They already have a playoffs game, and CG had the player change, and that player change wasn't a downgrade or something like that. Not because Crazy is bad, but changing a player is bad. It doesn't matter to which player. You just have to adapt to the play style of the team, and the team has to adapt to the new player. and I hope mYinsanity wins. So I guess my prediction will be mYinsanity. I guess they can really do it. And it was a 1-1 during the regular season, so they aren't that much below, under CG, or yeah, and not above.
No, definitely not. I guess you absolutely can say that with big confidence. They're not worlds apart. There's one thing that always makes me slightly nervous when picking mYinsanity as a winner in a matchup like that, and that's the case that I can't shake the feeling that I've seen mYinsanity too often crumble under pressure.
Okay.
And sort of drop off in performance-wise during series is when something doesn't really go their way, which is really a shame. But I still feel they are struggling here and there with mental consistency. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yes.
But still, I feel like mYinsanity, it would be time for them to make it to a final. I think they've battled their way through multiple seasons now, and they most certainly would have deserved a final spot. So I'll go with mYinsanity as well. And you know what? I will say they'll have a massive performance, a really good day, and they'll actually go through 2-0.
2-0 even?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually, if everything goes their way and if they keep on moving and sort of keep the momentum going, I feel like that actually would be a possibility. Also, mYinsanity fanboy. You know, I think by now it's not a big secret anymore. Linux is my boy, so we'll get him.
Yeah, true. I would be very happy for him as well. So, Spirits, what's your prediction?
In my opinion, I think it will be a 2-1 or 2-0 for CG, because I think
Okay.
the play style of CG is really impressive. They got a lot of strategy. They know how to play fast. They know how to play slow. As cities, they have a lot of setups as well. And if Crazy has the time to get in the shape of the team, right, if he knows the game style and how to play with the team, I think it will be pretty impressive. And if I have to make a bet, I would bet on CG. But I think it will be close. But if CG perform as they used to during the season, I think it will be a 2-1 or 2-0, yeah. But even a 2-0, yeah. So sorry, guys.
No problem, no
Spirit's
problem.
going the safe way, right?
What safe way?
Way too easy. No, let's be real. I mean, we can't really fool anyone here. I guess it would be still an upset if mYinsanity would win. Is there a chance? Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
would you like to see it? I guess so. But then again, would we really be surprised if CG steamrolls them 2-0? Probably not all that much.
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess realistically speaking, yeah, that could be very well the case. But still, I do believe. I have to give it to my boy.
Yeah, but the semifinal will be awesome for real to cast it. I think you will enjoy it a lot.
I'll
as a mYinsanity fanboy, you will be.
I'll have a blast. I know that already. And I have to say, I guess to come back to the other semifinal real quick, just to make that clear. Sort of CG and GAIJIN, right, were kind of for everyone pretty much all throughout the season, like the two top dogs in the series or in the season. Now, Babos Gaming and mYinsanity, they had some really banger of games between them and also throughout the season. And I think they very well deserved to make it to the semis now, both of them. And obviously mYinsanity probably just a little bit more lucky to come up against CG in the semi. After all, it would be incredibly impressive to see them make it through and past CG. But also, I wouldn't actually, for example, just hypothetically, I wouldn't put it past Babos, for example, to put a really good fight up against CG as well. Just that little bit unlucky that they actually go up against GAIJIN, where I see them struggle more. So yeah, it's a really cool setup of two semifinals it's gonna be a very very worthy end to a really cool season.
So, anything else about this series from you boys?
Nope, not at all.
Okay, so okay, no.
Tune in. Make sure you don't miss that. It'll
Yeah,
be a banger.
true.
Absolutely.
So to round out that series, story-wise, storyline-wise, I guess we can.
Yep.
That's a word, if that's a word.
It is.
It will be a very, very, very close series. It could go either way, and the players to watch are Swiss Device on the mYi side. Yeah, he's now Swiss Device because he won against Ferox, and we tweeted that the winner of this series would get that title. So that's that. So Swiss Device versus the King of Schliere on the CG side. So these are the players to watch for this series. And yeah, we have to tune in. And now for the finals. Only quick predictions. We shouldn't go too much into the details because we don't know who makes it to the finals for sure. I guess Spirits, you give the prediction if CG and GAIJIN make it to the finals, and Kairos, you give the prediction if mYi versus GAIJIN make it to the finals. I think you can start, Spirits.
I think it will be still a 2-0.
For
GAIJIN is just too strong, and I think they will crush everyone on the road, especially in those playoffs, because like they want to win, they want to have the title. So I don't think they will let anyone have a chance or have a shot to take them one map. So yeah, sadly, I think it will be a 2 as well for the final for GAIJIN.
Kairos?
Right. So, you know, I like to go for ballsy predictions.
Oh god.
After all, no. Just hear me out.
2-0 mYi.
After all, I actually put mYinsanity to move past CG.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my dues done to mYinsanity and kind of the fanboying done. Against GAIJIN, listen, match day 7 of the regular season, we've seen mYinsanity go up against GAIJIN. It didn't end pretty. 16-6, 16-10. I mean, it's not a complete stomp, but it isn't far off either. So if that's going to be the final, it most likely will be a 2-0 for GAIJIN. And there's no way around that, I don't think.
Okay, that's kind of sad to hear because then the final wouldn't be the most interesting game to watch. So another reason to tune into the CG versus mYi game.
Definitely.
But if that's it for the finals, we are done with the semis, we're done with the quarters. Is there anything else the two of you would like to say at the end? Like it could be anything you want.
Thank you a lot once more, Jamel, for this awesome video. Of course, it's always a pleasure to talk about the SHL, and thank you, Keros, to be here as well.
Yeah, massive thanks. Actually, didn't really expect it, and it was super cool actually to make it in this round. Have a quick with you guys. Enjoyed it a bunch, and obviously it just for myself just builds more hype. Really, looking forward to those semis, and can't wait to see them.
Okay, then thank you to both of you for coming. It was really a lot of fun. And to the viewers, I would say thank you for watching this episode, especially if you watched it until here. I appreciate it a lot, and yeah, enjoy the semis. You have to tune in. You heard Kairos. And yeah, I guess see you in the next episode, and thank you for watching once again.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.